In this next part, we're going to go over lines, and we went over so many types of formulas for lines, and this particular problem looks at everything. You're given the equation negative 2x equals 4y minus 2/5. And there's several things they want to know: the standard form, the slope-intercept form, the x and y intercepts. So what we're going to do is just kind of walk through each step, and it might not be in the order that's written A, B, C, D, E, F. The first thing I'm going to do is put this in standard form. So when I go to write this in standard form, there are several things that I have to remember about this. It's in the form of ax plus by is equal to c, where ax is positive. It's in alphabetical order, just like this. There are no fractions, and there is no greatest common factor. So there were these four rules that we had to apply to standard form. So no fractions, no x is going to be positive, no greatest common factor in the end result. So I'm going to take this equation and we're going to go through and do this. So we have negative 2x is equal to 4y minus 2/5. The first thing that I'm going to do is get rid of the fractions. Fractions aren't my favorite, so I'm going to multiply everything times 5. Up high, in the sky, on both sides, to every turn. So I end up with negative 10x is equal to 20y minus, and these are going to cancel, minus 2. So that was one of those stipulations I had to undo, was to get rid of the fractions. The next thing is I'm going to put them in alphabetical order. So I'm going to bring over this 20y, and I have negative 10x minus 20y is equal to negative 2. You may subtract 20 from both sides. So I've now got an alphabetical order, no fractions. Next is that x cannot be negative. So simply dividing by negative 1 or changing all the signs would take care of that value being negative. So I'm getting close, but the last thing that I have is a common factor. So I'm going to divide everything by that common factor of 2, and I'm going to have 5x plus 10y is equal to 1. So this is my standard form. There's no fractions. I got rid of the fractions. I took the y over and put that in alphabetical order. X, y, constant, or ax plus by equals c. I got rid of the negative, dividing everything through by negative 1, and then the common factor, dividing everything by 2. So here's my standard form right here. So in this blank, because I'm going to probably have a lot of this erased, you need to write 5x plus 10y is equal to 1. From standard form, it's easiest to find the intercepts, x and y intercepts. Probably the easiest thing to do is when you have 5x plus 10y equals 1, your standard form, remember that one of those is going to be 0. So if I'm looking for x, y will be 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute in, or I'm going to 0 out this y. And I end up with 5x is equal to 1, so x is 1/5. So this x-intercept is 1/5. Now, to find the y-intercept, I'm going to say, let's let x be 0, and I'm going to find y. So I go back to that standard form, and it doesn't matter what form that you put it in to find the intercepts. In this case, I'm going to 0 out the x, and I'm going to divide both sides by 10, and so y is equal to 1/10. That's my y-intercept right there. So I found the y-intercepts. I can even go back to my original and substitute in 0 here, bring the constant over, divide by 4, and I'm going to get the same intercept that I did when I solved for, or put it in standard form first. All right, I'm going to erase some of this. Keep that standard form. The other form that I'm looking for is the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take my standard form, 5x plus 10y is equal to 1, and I'm going to write that in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So what I need to do is solve for y, just to kind of remind you of what that was. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 5x over, and I have 10y is equal to positive on the left means negative on the right. And I'm going to solve for y, dividing everything by 10. So I have y is equal to, reduce your fractions, negative 1/2 x plus 1/10. Again, this is in the form of y equals mx plus b. What this does tell us is we can kind of check things. This m right here, there's my slope. So I can come up here and say, hey, my slope is -1/2. The slope-intercept form is y equals -1/2 x plus 1/10. But now remember that that b value is your y-intercept. So you can kind of go back through and check that you've gotten that y-intercept right there correct. So that's one of the that's how we find both the slope-intercept form, the standard form, the x and y intercepts and the slope. F, it asks if it rises and falls, goes to the left or to the right, or if it's vertical or horizontal. In this case, what we look for is the slope. The slope is negative, and since the slope is negative, the line is going to graph off toward the left, or you might say that it falls, but we always say to the left. So it's going to graph off toward the negative numbers toward the left.